Yo, yo,
Hello,
what's going on, brother?
what's up?
So, how does evil debunk Christianity per se?
Yeah, just the idea that an all-powerful all is he would avoid or eliminate it.
Why, if evil is a necessary thing?
Why would evil be necessary?
Because so you want everything to just be good, and to just be good.
Yeah.
Do you do know that once good exists, evil has to exist because that is the
Is evil
counterpart
eternal?
of evil. Come again?
Is evil eternal?
Is goodness eternal?
I'm asking if evil is eternal. It sounds like you're saying evil is eternal.
How does that sound like I'm saying evil is eternal? If I'm saying if good exists, evil is going to exist automatically. The moment you say good, there's bad.
Okay, so when God was alone, before he created anything, was there any evil?
Before God created anything, was there evil? It appears to me, honestly.
Well, you're saying that if good exists, then evil must exist. So
Indeed.
if God was alone, then what was evil? Was God evil?
Yeah.
So you think God is good and evil?
Yeah.
Well, that's just a contradiction.
How is that a contradiction? That makes
Good and
that
evil are
actually
opposed.
that actually makes perfect sense to what God is. If God is all things, then evil's gonna be in there. You're not gonna just say God is all these things and then take out evil.
Well, you must not be a Christian.
I don't think I'm a Christian then. That what Christians believe? I don't think Christians believe that God is not evil.
No, Christians do not believe that God is evil.
Because God says it in the Bible that he creates evil.
I mean, that's disputed, but
That's disputed.
Christianity, yeah, some people think that he just meant calamity. Some people think he meant destruction. It's a disputed thing. But
I
the
don't think
point
it's
is, if you
necessarily
don't,
disputed. It's a lot of perspective. People like to analyze things and break down things from their perspective of what something is. And a lot of times Christians do try to soften up God, but if you actually look at the damn doctrine, it ain't no soft shit going on. God is killing shit, killing people, and not opposed to inflicting what we could perceive as humanity as evil or wickedness onto people. They just think that, oh, God did it righteously, yada yada yada.
well, I might agree with that, but most Christians believe that God is all good.
Yeah, that's false though, because if God is all good, why the hell was he telling them to sacrifice random little goats and shit? Kill this goat for me. Go
Yeah.
slit this lamb's throat and burn it. And I want to smell. I want to smell. It said in the Bible that God smelled the burning flesh of an animal, but God doesn't have a physical nose. So
All right, bro. It just seems like we agree. But you asked me how does evil debunk Christianity? Well, Christians believe that God is all good. I don't have much time. I have to go to work in a minute. But yeah, I was bored too. Sober King, Sir Somber King. You agree with me, right? I'm only taking disagreeers. Damn, that hurt. Apparently, I'm washed though, so maybe I'll just go watch Rick and Morty. I'm disagree. I don't believe you. You're Christian? Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me? So, why would it be? What do you think? What do you take evil to be in the Christian worldview?
Just anything that opposes God or
Okay.
transgression against the law.
Okay. So evil doesn't exist ontologically.
On Christianity?
Yeah.
Sure. I don't.
So evil doesn't have ontology. So in what way does it exist?
Well, if you're just gonna say that like evil doesn't exist,
Why are you? Again, I'm asking you a very specific question.
do you think you can do something evil?
Can you answer the question or no?
Wait, what did you even ask?
No, I asked you. So does evil exist if it doesn't have ontology?
And exist in what way?
I'm asking you just answered my question on the existence, on things existing, and I'm asking you if something doesn't have ontology like you just conceded to, does it exist within reality?
Yeah.
Okay, what's the mode of existence that evil
Just
exists
like
in?
I can make my room dark, or I can
Well,
make
you're
my
not.
food cold. Does
Well,
that
you're
mean
not.
that like
Sorry, go ahead.
when you say existence, do you mean anything that with an ontology?
I'm saying ontologically. Like, do you know what ontology is or no?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'm asking you is that when you say I can make my room dark, you're just making a descriptor for something that doesn't have light, right? Because that's what darkness is. It's just an absence of light. There's nothing that is the source of darkness itself. It's just a lack thereof, right? And when it's a lack thereof, it doesn't have ontology. There's not substance in the same way that light has. So when you describe evil things,
I
right?
don't see
Yes, I
all of
think
them. I don't see what.
I think you can just. I'm trying to explain this to you so you don't strawman the Christian worldview. When you make descriptors of things non-ontological in philosophy, you're perfectly able to do that with things not having ontology. So if you say like, "Oh, do you think evil exists?" Right? I don't believe it has ontology. So if we're being very specific, I think that you can define things that are just a depravity of God, and yes,
Do you
things can have
think,
actions that are
okay. Do you
depravity.
think evil things occur?
Yeah, I do. I do think that what we describe and what we know as evil, things that are against God, yes.
Okay. So then that's all I mean. There's these things that God. You think God can like stop something evil from happening?
I mean, God can do whatever He'd like, but I mean, obviously within His nature, within reason.
Yeah. So then that's all I mean by existing, like evil things occurring. Right?
Yeah, but I mean,
Not as
again,
opposed
that's
to
because of the second cause. That's because of second causal nature. Like that's not a
second
that's
causal nature.
yeah. You know what that is?
You're talking about other things causing evil or whatever.
Well, I mean, if you're gonna try to internally critique the Christian worldview correctly, you would have to agree with the fact that we are distinct. We're a distinct being from God that has a distinct will or
Hmm.
hypostases from God. And if you can't agree to that, then you're just being disingenuous to the Christian worldview.
Well, I'm not saying God causes evil, if that's what you're assuming.
Oh, well, when you say when you say evil, when you say blame free will for evil challenge, like when you say try not to blame free will, um, it's not the fact that we have the free will. It's the fact that we choose to go against God with intention. Therefore, we are the ones. Humans are responsible for evil. That's the point, right? An animal has its own will to do. Like I don't have the will of a dog, right? But
Yeah.
obviously a dog is not a human being, right? But I don't have that will. I have a will that is distinct from your will that can do things that are completely distinct from you and from God. Even though God has created me, right?
Was it
Just because He
is God
created me doesn't mean
opposed to
that
those?
there's not. What did you say?
Is God opposed to those actions?
Is He opposed to things not of Himself?
Is he? Yeah. Is he opposed to evil actions?
Yes, God is opposed to things that are not of himself, not of his nature, yeah, or of his energies.
Yeah, and by opposed, I just mean he's disposed to avoiding or eliminating it if he has
Well,
the power
I
to.
mean, you mean sure. So the fact that like if you're saying that God can stop something, therefore he ought to stop something, you would have to give me your epistemic grounding for why he ought to do that in the Christian worldview.
Because he's opposed to it.
Well, just because he's opposed to it, why does it like? Do you know the greater good argument? Like, what if that like the ultimate good argument? Do you know what that is?
Yeah, well, there's different views on it. Are these greater
Well,
goods necessary to obtain?
I don't. Well, first off, I would say that in the greatest good, and God's distinct will and his innate nature, everything that he does is the greatest good. And also, I have to preface this as well because you're like assuming that if God stopped these things, that would be the greatest good. And why would that be the case? Like, what's the argument for that?
Opposing that.
Well, that's what your
You're saying that-
questions presuppose. So that's
Are
just
you
gonna.
saying that these greater goods are aims of God?
I'm saying that God knows the greatest good, and you presupposing that if he removed all of these things would be the greatest good is you're
No, no, no,
essentially
no.
you're
I'm
essentially
saying,
God.
is he required to achieve these greater goods?
What do you mean? Is he required?
Yeah. So, when God creates, is he
No,
like
God. I'm not
excuse
Catholic.
me.
I don't think God has to create.
Yeah.
He
Okay.
chooses. He chooses to.
Okay. So these greater goods, um, it's not like they ought be achieved.
No, these greater goods are the case in regards and innate action to God's will and to what God is. Right? God is the greatest good, right? So whether he actualizes his greatest good does not change the fact that what he is the greatest good. That's kind of like what I'm
Yeah,
trying to
okay.
say. And I hold more of a Kantian view on this. Like on how I like determine like actualization or like natures. So it's not going to be indicative of like maybe like what a Thomist believes. Like a Catholic, I'm Orthodox, so like a Catholic might believe like this might work on a Catholic, but not on my worldview.
Okay. So he doesn't have to create.
No, he doesn't.
Okay. So if
But
he's
what? Yeah.
opposed to evil, he doesn't need to achieve these greater goods.
No, well, we're not arguing about whether he is to enact. He is the greatest good, regardless. Like he is everything that he does, and what he is in potency. Right, he is literally the greatest good. Like
Okay.
God and everything that he does is the greatest good. So you're saying that you're acting like there's a criteria, and now I'm asking you what is the criteria and standard for the greatest good if you're
You're
gonna
saying
if you're gonna conduct a critique.
yeah, you're saying God is the greatest good, right?
Correct.
So he doesn't need to create to achieve other greater
He
goods.
doesn't need to. What? Wait. Why would him creating? Why would that not be the greatest good? Why is that the
Because
greatest good?
he himself is the greatest good.
I understand that, but that's in regards to his nature, absolutely. But I'm saying if he didn't create, would he be the greatest good? What I just described, yes or no?
Yeah, if he didn't create, he would. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He'd
Okay,
still be the
so
greatest good. So
okay,
creating and not
great.
creating are it's indifferent to him.
No, because everything that he does, including in regard, so for example, I believe I hold to EE. I don't know if you know what that is. I hold to the EED, right? So the way that we interact with God and the way that God um, deposes his greatest good, right, is through his energies, right, which essentially are just actions. Okay, so anything that God does is the greatest good. If God doesn't do something, like for example, if God doesn't, let's say God doesn't do A, okay, that doesn't mean that A is the greatest good because that would have to be demonstrated. I'm saying that in anything that he does, it's the greatest good. So my argument is that when you're saying that God ought to just stop all these bad things because that is in your worldview. I don't know if I'm assuming you're conducting an internal critique, right? Would presuppose that stopping all of those things is the greatest good, and I'm asking for the argument for that. Why is that the greatest good? You're not giving me an argument.
No, 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 no. I'm confused on whether or not um, he him creating is a greater good.
Everything that God does is the greatest good. I don't
Okay,
believe
so
in
okay,
possible. I
so
don't
all
believe
your
in possible. I don't believe in possible worlds, dude. Like
you
again, I'm
don't
not a
believe in possible
Thomist.
worlds.
But please stop giving these Thomistic counterpoints. I don't hold to all this, dude. I'm not gonna
Wait,
like.
you don't.
I'm not a Thomist, dude. Like all these arguments are they would work on Catholics. I'm not a Catholic. I'm Eastern Orthodox.
Wait, you don't think there are other possible worlds?
No, I don't hold to that.
Wait,
You
you
want to
just
argue?
said that God's act of creation was a free act. So he could have
So
chosen to create otherwise.
no, because I believe in pure ase. So I'm not saying that. So I don't believe that God has like active potency.
Look, you're saying
Yeah.
whatever God does is for the greatest good, right?
The greatest good is God Himself, dude.
Yeah, God, yeah, I get
No,
it.
no, 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 no,
You're
no.
saying
You're
his
acting like
actions.
there's like there's like a criteria or a standard for what it means to be the greatest good. God is the greatest good. That's the point. So anything God actualizes,
Yeah, but you're
right?
talking about his nature is the
Yeah, I
greatest
don't
good.
believe in I don't believe, dude. I'm not. Yeah, I'm telling you, His nature in regards to Himself, in His nature, He is all good. That's my argument, right? He is all good. So anything that He actualizes, and I just gave you that I gave him the
Yeah,
demonstration that if He doesn't, for example, if He doesn't actually, let's say God
yeah,
doesn't do
and
this, right?
and he
But
actualizes things
but He
based
doesn't
on
have,
reasons,
yeah.
right?
Well, no, He doesn't have active potency. The way that you're describing God's mind is not going to be indicative of how we think about things. God doesn't have to think. He
God
is
is
pure
an
act.
agent.
He's pure act.
I don't
No, he's
know.
yeah.
Agents act. Act is a verb.
So again, right? I don't know if you know what the
Yeah, I know.
monarchical.
I know.
Okay, well, I'm just trying to help you out here because you're going to strawman my position, man. I don't want you to do that.
Look, energies are just God acting. It's not
I
like some
agree. Yeah,
distinct ontological category.
I'm not even talking about energies, dude. Like this guy. Like I wasn't even going to talk about energies. I was gonna talk
Well,
about something completely
you
different.
said you were holding to EED.
Sure, that was earlier, right? I was going to talk about
That's like
something.
a minute ago.
Well, yeah, that was earlier. I was making a reference to something else, and I was about to mention something else that pertained to this conversation currently, right now, in this
You're
moment.
talking about his essence,
Correct.
and his act is the energy.
Yes,
So that's what we're fucking talking about.
I understand that, but I was gonna make a reference to something different within the topic, dude. Is that okay? I don't know why you're cursing at me, bro. Relax. It's not that deep.
It's my love language.
It is. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too, bro. Sometimes I throw the fuck bomb too. You know.
There you go.
Just throw it out
Right
there.
on, brother.
Yeah,
So
right on. Right.
the question is,
Well,
in
can
virtue
I get
of
an
what?
can I get an answer to my question?
What was your question?
My question is that again, if God can stop this evil, this non-ontological thing, right? If God can stop this thing, right? What's the ought of why he ought to stop that?
In virtue of his nature.
Okay. Now, what if the greatest good is allowing that?
Well,
Wait,
then
I
that
have a.
ought to happen. Then that evil ought to happen. What we think is
Wait, hold
evil,
on,
and it's
hold on a
not
second.
really evil.
Hold on a second. Wait. So I'm curious. Do you believe then that are you like what's your world like? What's your position? I just so I don't like confuse because I don't want to like argue things that you don't believe in.
I'm well, I mean, for this, I'm an atheist. I don't know if you
Okay,
want
you're
to
an
know
atheist.
my
Like what kind of
worldview.
like what kind of like? I mean, just really quick.
I'm a neutral monist.
Ah, okay. All right, that's fine. Just want to make sure. All right, that's cool. Yeah, no. So I'm basically making the argument that if God allows or permits things, it doesn't mean that He wants things to happen. But also at the same time, the consequence of bad things happening, or for example, evil things happening to other agents, is a consequence of sin. And I believe that God will, for example, use these things for the greatest good, because what God does is the greatest good, right? So for you
Yeah.
to say that the
So
greatest good would
God,
be, hold on, and pertains into the thing that pertains to His nature, would be to stop this thing, right? That would be contradictory to obviously what the second causal act would be on another agent that we believe in as Orthodox Christians.
but don't you realize the entailments of that?
I understand what you guys try to suppose on that, but I mean, there's easy ways around that. There's no issue.
Okay, well, let's get to those.
Sure.
So if God is allowing an evil, right, that's an action. He's allowing it, right? He's not preventing it. He sees it happening and he does not prevent it because that's motivated by his divine nature, which is
Yeah,
good.
why is that bad?
That's not bad. I'm saying
Oh, it's not
the
bad.
conse-
So that you
I'm
concede
saying
it.
the consequence of this is that things like the Schmolokos, child grape, all of those things
Yeah.
ought to happen. And so our moral intuitions about what evil is are radically deceived. They're not bad. They're good. They're part of the greatest possible good.
So do you understand that actions can be you can have an action that's bad, right? And it can lead to a possible good. Like for example, would you unalive an innocent person to save
Not possible
the whole
good.
world? Yes or
Am
no?
I am I omnipotent?
To say you know that if you don't unalive this person, right, the whole world's going to die.
And it's necessary for this greater good?
No, it's
Look,
not
this is
necessary.
look.
It's hold on. No. I'm just posing this question to
Well,
you.
it's
You're not.
important whether it's necessary or not.
Well, sure. So it would be hold on. The decision you make, you got A or B, and the decision itself, you have to make a decision between A or B. So it'd be that would be the necessity. Now, whatever you can choose whatever. I mean, you're not
Yeah,
like
but I'm
born.
saying the only way to get to this greater good is if I choose A.
Yeah, which would be so. For example, which would be you're still doing something bad, right? Correct.
No, it ought to happen.
Wait. So wait. So hold on.
If
That's
it's
great.
necessary, if it's not necessary, if it could be
So
achieved
would
by C, D, or E with less suffering and no one getting unalive, then I ought to choose that other thing.
okay, great. So then, would raping a kid to save the whole world, would that be good to save the whole world? Would that be good? No, I just want to hear him say it. No one speak for him, please.
Am I God?
Hold on, I'm just asking. You answered the question perfectly last time. Hold on
I
a
was
second,
answering
man.
for God generally.
Well, hold on a second. Can you answer? Can you please answer this question? Would it be? I don't need you to presuppose.
It's kind of weird.
Look,
It's kind of
I've
weird.
got,
Hold on. Wait.
It's kind of
Why are
weird.
you
Hold on.
guys
I've got a
getting-
totally different meta-ethical system.
Hold on a second.
Right?
Hold on a
And you would
second.
just be
Yeah.
confused.
Wait,
Gonna-
why are you getting uncomfortable? I don't understand. The other
Because
one was
Nobody's
hard
getting
for me.
uncomfortable.
The other one,
It seems
hold
as
on.
if though.
Hold on, I'm
it
speaking to
seems
him,
as
not
if though-
you. You can mute
Yeah, it's
yourself.
fine, and
I'm not talking to you. I'm not talking. Thank you. So my
Look, you're
question.
interrogating my worldview.
Well, no. I
which
just
is
posed.
radically different than
Yeah,
the worldview
we're not gonna
than
do
an
that.
internal
Right?
critique.
We're not gonna.
Wait, hold
We're
on.
not gonna do that.
Oh, is this
Right?
Pope?
So like, no, you hold
Is
on.
this who?
So we're not gonna do
Is
that.
this
Right?
who?
So like. So what's interesting?
Can you
What's
tell your
interesting
mom-
is that
I'm not
under your
interested.
view, you
Want to speak to these other people?
you're
interrupting.
yeah. I'm not interested in you over talking. When I'm not interested in
can
speaking.
you just stop?
I'm not interested in. Yeah, I'm not interested. In, yeah, I know.
Just stop
Thank
muting
you.
me.
Chill.
No,
Just
I'm not gonna
chill.
stop. So like, I'm gonna get out of point, and then you
speak.
can
Hold on.
continue the
Let him
conversation,
speak.
right? So just relax. Yeah, thank you. It's kind of weird because it seems as there he goes. He ran. So it's weird that he's interrogating you and trying to press you, Flinster, to commit that in some view where it's necessary that you'd have to bite that bullet. Because it seems as if though
I'm not a consequentialist.
he already bit that
Right? He's
bullet.
presupposing some divine utilitarianism.
Exactly.
Right? Which
like
which is weird because he said he was like Kantian in another part of the conversation. So I don't know what the hell he's referring to.
under his view.
Oh my goodness. Hello.
Oh, hi.
But under his view, if he's using this notion that everything that God does is good for the greater good, and so allowing evil is good because God allows it for the greater good, then he's definitely committed to the notion that child rape and the Holocaust or whatever is good. Right?
That's his
view.
view.
That he's trying to kind of like rhetorical. He realized that when I was asking him that, which is why he kept on over talking. It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
Hey,
that's
Essence.
why he would ask Flinster for his view, but go ahead, Essence.
I just ended up here. I didn't even request, but since
Hey,
I'm
we
here,
all just somehow ended up here. I didn't ask to be born either.
yeah. Well, I see your topic is Christians try not to blame free will for evil. Well, people do have the choice to be good or be evil, and God didn't create evil. People become evil all on their own.
What do you think evil is?
What do I think evil is? I think evil is wickedness, doing something that you know is totally against God's will, like murder, which is, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that.
That's okay.
And
It's a
taking
schmurder.
the life of somebody by lying and waiting for them.
So if you
And
saw somebody about to do that, would you try to stop them if you could?
oh, yeah, absolutely.
So why doesn't God?
Why doesn't God try to stop them?
Yeah.
Because God is not a God of the unalive. He's a God of life, of
Oh,
living.
so he's indifferent?
And and no person has ever truly lost their life. Every soul that God created is still living in heaven or on earth.
Okay, so
In
why
the
would you try
absence
to
of,
stop the person from committing schmurder?
because first of all, I am not God, okay?
Yeah, I
And
know. It's much
if
harder
I
for you
am
to
there
stop
as a
someone.
witness, the purpose of me witnessing this may be for me to intervene. It could be why God put me in that situation so that I could intervene and help save this person's life. It might not be God's will for that person to go to heaven at that time.
Well, but it might also be God's will for you just to watch it happen and not intervene because it is his time.
I don't think so. Nothing happens by coincidence with God.
No, I'm saying that's God's plan is for you to be there and watch
But
it
why
happen
would
and
He
not
just
do
want me
anything.
to witness something like
Well,
that? I mean,
he's not
what
doing
would be the
anything to stop
purpose?
it.
Pardon me?
Okay, God's ways are mysterious. Who knows?
They are. His thoughts are not our thoughts. His ways are
Yeah.
not our ways. That's
Yeah,
true.
so don't ask questions, just watch the schmurder happen. I'm saying if God
But
is
God
not,
knows our minds are fragile and that is traumatizing to most people to watch something like
yeah,
that.
but we grow from trauma, right?
Um, we grow from trials and tribulations. I'm not
Hmm.
sure it's so
Yeah.
much trauma. Trauma is can be psychologically
Hmm.
uh,
And God
uh,
could fix that if he wanted to, right?
devastating. Hmm.
God could heal the trauma if he wanted to.
Um, of course, God is Almighty. He can heal
Yeah.
anything,
How
and
hard would
He's
it be
healed
for him
me.
to heal the trauma?
Pardon me.
How hard would it be for him to heal the trauma?
God can do all things. It wouldn't be hard at all for him. He can
Yeah, you
speak.
just think it.
Yeah, he can just think it or speak
Yeah.
it. Or,
Yeah. So what
as a matter of
explains
fact, he
why he
healed me.
doesn't?
I was traumatized for 15
Okay.
years. I was handicapped, wheelchair, crutches,
Hmm. Yeah.
excruciating pain from head to
Yep.
toe and every joint in my body because I had severe rheumatoid arthritis.
Hmm.
And God completely healed me.
Yeah,
So
but he
I
doesn't
know.
heal everyone, does he?
Well, it's He heals those that have the faith, I believe,
Yeah, so
and
he's okay with the
it's his
suffering of
will.
the
It's his will.
faithless. Yeah, it's
Pardon
his
me?
will.
Yes, it's his will.
It's just random whether he wants to
Right.
or not.
I don't think it's random. I don't think anything is random with God. I think He healed me to be a witness so I can tell you about how He has healed me. Be a witness for Him to glorify Him.
Yeah, so it was good that he healed you, but it's also
Mhm.
good that he doesn't heal other people, right? If he chooses
God's
not to heal someone, that's good, right?
everything God does is good.
Yeah, it's
He's a
serving some
righteous
divine
God.
purpose, right? So their suffering,
God,
their pain, their death, all of that is good.
all things come together for the good of those that love Him.
So there is no evil.
Oh, evil exists because people do evil things. Evil definitely exists,
Yeah, but
and
the evil that they do, God
Satan is evil.
allows.
Pardon me?
The evil that they do is part of God's plan.
No, it's not part of God's plan.
Wait,
But
so things are
well,
happening
it
that
is
God
now.
doesn't
You
want?
know why? Because um, Satan is evil, and God made him beautiful, right? He made him the wise and beautiful, the full pattern of wisdom and
He had
beauty, and
he had an
God
8-pack.
even elevated him so that his job would be to guard the.
I kicked her. This she's too precious. Like
I
she's
know
like
she's too nice.
she's like the granny
I
at
like her. I like her.
the Baptist church. Yeah, I can't. I don't think she's gonna get what we're saying. Like, so you think that like when they do the greater good stuff, does that presuppose consequentialism?
Yeah.
Okay. Because I thought it was strange that he was like interrogating you for the view, but like he had already deployed this sort of
Yeah, I mean
consequential
that's
framework.
actually I'm working on a project right now, but it's basically um, an argument against the greater good theodicy, not as it pertains to the problem of evil, but like a different issue. But
Okay.
um, but in Christianity, there's this notion of the imago Dei, that we're all made in the image of God, and that's where like we get our moral worth, and that's why we are enjoined to treat each other as ends as opposed to means. So you treat someone as an end into themselves, not as a means to an end. Right? You love them because they're made in the image of God, not because, they can give you a job or something. But
Okay.
this consequentialism, this for the greater good, treats people as means to God's ends, right? It doesn't respect that they are made in his image, right? So he's not valuing himself, his own image. And so that seems to be disallowed by this broader Christian ethics,
Right.
that you can even appeal to this greater good theodicy. Like it's just going to be wrong to use someone's suffering as an instrument to teach others about suffering or whatever it is. Like the
Yeah, that
kid,
makes sense.
yeah.
But like, shit. What was I gonna say? Um, fuck. I had a really good point. It was something about the greater good and
Consequentialism.
yeah,
He was interrogating my worldview and assuming
yeah.
that I was a consequentialist.
Fuck. I was gonna say. Oh yeah. So the greater goods. The way I understand the greater good is that it should come about. Um, so they think that the things that would bring those greater goods about, such as the evil, they think that those things should not occur. I don't know about in the prototo sense, but they think that like at least the protanto sense that the evils that God would allow that contribute to the greater good,
Hmm.
they think that those evils shouldn't occur, right?
Hmm. But
But
if they didn't occur, then the greatest good could not occur.
so yeah, so in what sense is it a greater good if like it's dependent on this evil, but you think the evil shouldn't have occurred, and if the evil doesn't occur, you don't get the greater good,
Yeah, you can't have the redemption without the fall.
right? So I just don't see how it's a greater good if they think that like the thing that's required for it to occur shouldn't occur, and it should be avoided. Like, what's meant by greater good on that view? I wish he didn't leave. I really
I
want.
suppose you could redefine greater good to mean the greatest good is to treat each individual as an end as opposed to a means to an end. But that would just be contradicted by what you see happening every single day.
Like, could you repeat that?
I'm saying it could be the case that the greatest good is that God treats everyone as an end in themselves and not as a means to some other end, right? But that would just be contradicted by, like, all of the pointless suffering you see in the world.
Yeah. Is there anyone else want to come up? I'll invite Sommer because why not? She usually comes up. I'm surprised Kay is in here.
What's up?
Hey,
Granny Sommer.
are you a grandma?
Yeah, Slurms did an AI of me and he age progressed me like into the grave, basically. So I just
What'd you
changed my name
think?
for fun. I said,
Did
put
it,
me in a casket at that point.
how did it make you feel about your future?
I don't feel like it's an accurate depiction of what I'll look like when I'm older. It was creepy. It
I love
reminded me of
the.
have you guys seen the movie Legion with the old lady that like climbs the wall?
No,
That's what it reminded me of.
that's. What's up, Dean? Do you agree? Is Dean there? Oh, he just left. He was there.
He said
Christian
no.
Carl. That's definitely not someone I know.
Oh,
That's a
hey,
great.
I'm here.
Howdy, Dean.
Hey, guys.
Do you disagree or you agree?
Well, that's not really a statement. Try not to blame free will for evil challenge.
Hmm.
What am I disagreeing to?
The bottom statement.
That it's impossible.
Well, I guess my first thing is, if we look at why does evil exist? Where does evil even come from? How do we even define evil? Harm to others?
That which ought not to occur from God's lights.
No, I'm saying if we take God out of it, what is
You
evil?
can't take God out of it.
You can't take God out of evil.
Out of the picture. God is that which is not desired by God.
Let's see. Christians try not to blame free will for evil challenge. We have to define evil, right? And obviously, evil apart from God, you're saying does not exist. Is that what you mean?
I'm saying that a way to define evil is from God's perspective, which is the only one that really matters as to what the truth is what he thinks ought not happen. And good is what he thinks ought to happen.
Well, it sounds to me that what the statement that you're making is that you're already putting God in the mix of it, in the mix of it, right? And what I'm trying to do is wonder, just in general, where does evil come from?
Well, in virtue of
How do
what
we
is
even
something
define
evil?
I'm sorry?
In virtue of what is something evil? I'm saying that it's in virtue of God's disapproval that it's evil.
Well, in the previous discussion, you were talking about murder, and you're talking
Mhm.
about the Holocaust. You were talking
Mhm.
about grape. You're talking, but that's harm to others, correct?
That's part
I
of
mean,
it. Yeah.
wouldn't we define evil as harm?
I don't think so.
Then how?
Not in a Christian worldview. Because God caused harm to people, but that would entail that he was the author of evil.
Well, I'm saying you're defining as it harm to people, and you're saying that it's wrong because harm is
No,
wrong. I mean,
but
that's
I'm not invoking a harm principle. I'm explicitly rejecting the harm principle. I'm saying evil is that which God disapproves of.
okay. So, I mean, to me, it sounds like you've already made the statement. You're saying that God is that which he does not approve of, and somehow that makes him bad or wrong?
Hmm?
So,
No?
because in the previous guest, you were saying if something bad has happened, and wouldn't you stop it, right? And the lady said, yeah, I would stop it. But then you were saying, well, why doesn't God stop it? Because, he could. So
Mhm.
basically, what you're inferring is that if it's harm to someone and he doesn't stop harm to someone, then he thinks it's good.
No, I'm just saying he doesn't stop something that he disapproves of. And what would explain that is that he actually approves of it. And so what we think is evil is actually what God approves of. So we're just mistaken when we identify cases of evil, that those are actually cases of good, and they ought to happen in virtue of God allowing them.
So when you're saying that it's good,
Yeah.
what's your definition of good? Just that it's something that God allows, or God allows it, so it's
Yeah, I
good.
mean, it could
Is
be
that
that God is
his definition?
indifferent to it, but I think if God, in terms of what is good, it's that which God approves of.
Okay, so it sounds
So him
like,
allowing it could be he's indifferent to it or he approves it.
okay, so in that definition, right, then we're not making any judgment. We're not saying God is wrong for doing this or bad for doing this. It's just that it happened and he allows it. So there's
Uh,
it doesn't sound like there's any judgment on God here. It just sounds like this is what he allows. And
th-
so
this
what
is
he
an
allows.
internal critique of Christianity to show a tension between God allowing evil, what the biblical claims that evil exists and God is opposed to evil, and the entailment of God's nature resulting in the fact that there is no evil. So the contradiction is there is no evil, but there's evil. So if you
Well,
understand God as a triomny God, and he allows
mhm.
things for a greater good or for his purposes or they're necessary for blah, 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 he either approves of them or he's indifferent to them. That just means that there is no evil. If this God exists, there is no evil. He's logically incompatible with evil. But then the Bible says there is evil. So that's the contradiction.
Well, I think that y- your definition of what you're saying, I think what you're saying, you're contradicting yourself in the sense that when you're saying evil, right?
Mhm.
Without saying it, you're saying it's harm to people. Either it's harm to someone or it's not desirable for a person, however you want to put it.
Mhm.
That evil is, in some sense, you're seeing it as wrong. You're seeing it as bad.
Right. Yeah. So we also assume that on the Christian worldview, we're imbued with moral intuitions, the ability to comprehend moral facts in the world. Right. And so I see something that I take to be evil.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that's not that my seemings are not the truth maker of whether it is or isn't evil. The truth maker of that is whether God disapproves of it or approves of it. If God approves of it, it's good. God disapproves of it, it's evil, in virtue of God's nature, which is all good, omnibenevolent.
Well, I guess in that sense, I wouldn't necessarily term that good then. I wouldn't say that if God allows it, it's good. In the sense, when you say good, you're saying that it's
Mhm.
some type of pleasantry just for God himself or for others. So if you're saying
Whatever
good for
calculus God uses.
Mhm. Because in my sense, if that's the thought, if that's the train of thought that we're going on, then someone not wanting God would be considered evil, correct?
Someone what?
Someone not choosing or not wanting to be with God would be evil, correct?
It depends if God desires them to want him or not.
So you're saying that, so just like your statement, so the freedom of choice for someone to choose God doesn't exist, you're saying?
Oh, they can choose or not choose, but whether it's good or evil is made true by God's preferences.
So I'm trying to understand. So you're saying that ultimately there is no choice.
No, you can have free will, right? But that's not going to explain if you're also holding that evil exists and that God allows evil to obtain as a result of free will choices. You can make the choice to do something evil. That doesn't mean that God has to allow it. You can have the desires to do evil things, and you can have the free will choice to act on those desires. But it's also the case that God could change your desires, and you'd have different desires, and you could still have a free will choice to act or not act on those desires. So it doesn't have anything to do with free will.
Yeah. Let me come. I love this discussion, but I have a meeting I got to go to.
Yeah, I got to go buy
Unfortunately.
balloons for my daughter. So
Hopefully it's for
we'll,
a great occasion. It's
yeah,
birthday
it's
or
her
something.
birthday. It's her birthday. Yeah.
Fantastic. Happy birthday
8
to your
years
daughter.
old.
That's wonderful. That is
Yeah.
wonderful, man. Well, hey, happy birthday to your daughter. I want to pick this up again. But I just had this meeting pop up and I
Cool, man.
gotta go to it. So,
All right.
all right,
Bye.
guys. Yeah, we'll talk to you. Yep.
All right. All right. See you later, Trey. I really do get around.
All right, see you, man. Appreciate you.
Bye, Summer. I mean, sorry, Granny Summer.
I'm ending.